memorable reads of 2018? Your favorite?
My most memorable book read was branded Stand from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. It's I may fudge the subtitle, but I think it's History of Racist Ideas in the United States. And it basically outlines how racist thoughts and racist ideas have shaped policy to uphold and sustain white supremacy in the United States, and how those racist thoughts, as new needs have arisen, as more rights for people of color, for Black people in particular, have been attained, new racist thoughts have been formed to continue to uphold white supremacy over time.
As a matter of fact, I have to thank you because I took that book home with me last trip. Okay. What are your favorite genres right now?
Because I mostly do audiobooks, I think I'm reading a lot. I'm listening to a lot more fiction than I used to before. I was strictly a nonfiction person because I'm very interested in history. I'm very interested in learning new things. But this year, I've listened to a lot of really, really good fiction.
Like what?
Pachinko was really good. Homegoing by, I think her name is pronounced Yaa Gyasi, was beautifully written. And they're mostly read by people that I've listened to before, by voice actors that I've listened to before, so that also influences what I pick up. Jesmyn Ward's, was it Salvage the Bones? No. I think it's her latest novel. I'm blanking on the title right now. I should have prepped.
Don't worry, I'll look for it.
Jesmyn Ward's latest novel, which was also beautiful, and it was Jesmyn writes a lot about where she's from. She's from Mississippi, and in this novel, she includes one of the most tragic places, Parchment Prison, where up until the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, maybe later, there was essential slavery still being practiced, using prisoners, of course.
Yeah. I understand that you do a lot of audiobooks now because you're a knitter.
Yes. Yes.
And so how is that working out for you?
It works really well. Sometimes I can crack 3 books in a weekend because I also pitch them to be read faster.
How fast do you put them?
One, depending on who's reading them, 1.5, 1.25.
Okay. Not too fast.
No, I mean, I do like a lot of the people that are reading these books are really good actors. So I like to hear how they're telling the story, because the reading is not just like someone just reading a book. They do a really good job of getting you into the story. So if you go too fast, you're not really catching the nuances in the way that they're telling the story.
Okay, we were supposed to have discussed Underground Railroad, which was another one that you had recommended to me. Is there anything that you had wanted to share, especially about Underground Railroad?
I felt like it started really strong for me personally. I felt like it started really strong, and then sort of fizzled at the end. It's really hard with those kind of stories and stories that deal with people who are marginalized or people who are experiencing oppression. In this case, people who are fleeing slavery, literally, because we're so used to happy endings. I think that we were fed a lot of happy endings and a lot of redemption, ideas of redemption and the good guys winning, and fleeing slavery should be the happy ending, you know?
Right. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. What I think I had wanted to comment about that to you about Underground Railroad was that I was completely flabbergasted by the magical realism.
Yes.
I was not expecting that at all.
Well, I had read that, and when the book came out, I read that he placed the railroad in like physical form. So that was one of the reasons why I actually wanted to read the book. I mean, we grew up reading a lot of magical realism coming from Latin America. So I was very interested in it. And I think that part worked.
I do too.
I think that he did that very, very well.
I do. But it surprised me completely.
Yeah.
You know why I think it surprised me completely? Because it fed into my childhood imagination of the Underground Railroad. Because when I was a child, I really thought it was an underground railroad. I thought it was a railroad for real.
And I think that Colin was also dealing with that, because I think a lot of kids, when they first hear about it, and a lot of us, probably when we first heard about it, that's what comes to mind, because that's the only kind of railroad that we're used to seeing.
Okay. So, Yasmine, since this channel has to do with Puerto Rican books and Puerto Rican culture and literature, etc., I want to know, what are your favorite Puerto Rican books and authors?
Oh my, I haven't read a lot of, I confess, I haven't read a lot of Puerto Rican literature since I was literally in school in Puerto Rico. I would say the most memorable always is La Pasión, según Antígona Pérez, which is actually a play by Luis Rafael Sánchez, and it's a spin on Antígona, and it's set in a hypothetical, which is not actually hypothetical, Latin American country where there has been revolutionaries trying to fight the government. And Antígona is on the side of the revolutionaries, because she also happens to be, much like Antígona herself, happens to be in some way related to the family that's in power. So that was very memorable for me. Antígona, to this day, is like my handle on a lot of my social media. She was just fearless and very powerful. And on that same author, Luis Rafael Sánchez, also wrote La Guaracha de Macho, Camacho, which I love because it sounds very Puerto Rican. The language is very, it just sounds like you're in the middle of downtown Santurce or something like that. The language is just very, it resonates with boricuanness or la naturaleza de la gente de Puerto Rico. It's so colloquial, and at the same time it just feels very loving. It just makes me love Puerto Rico. It makes me love us when I read it.
Oh, that's great.
It's very musical.
I know, because you have several copies.
Just in case something happens to one.
I think I took 2 already. Yeah, I only left you 1, I think. So, any. I was going to ask you, did you read Antígona Pérez in high school?
I did. It was part of
It was assigned?
It was AP Spanish. I took a few AP courses my last year, and that was one of the ones that I had to read. We read other books from other Puerto Rican authors, René Marquez. We read books by Gabriel García Márquez. That's where I read La Crónica de muerte, anunciada, which to me was one of the most revolutionary storytelling, one of the most revolutionary books in terms of storytelling that I have ever read. But they focused, our teacher focused a lot on Puerto Rican literature, and she gave us a couple of books to read, and I remember La víspera del hombre from that the most, and Antígona, La pasión, según Antígona Pérez.
And just a shout out to the teacher. Who was that teacher?
I don't remember.
Oh my God. We'll have to look it up. Okay, yes, because that's not, I don't think that's usual, right?
I know, but it was like it was like over 20 years ago. So I do remember her face. I remember that she was very stylish. She wore stockings in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I know. I know. That was one of my first shocks.
I bet Yanira had her too. My sister had her too, so she might remember who she was.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Before we go off to the knitting part, I just wanted to ask you, because I know you're into film also, the most memorable movies that you saw this year.
Black Panther.
How many times did you see Black Panther?
In the theater 5 times.
You really supported it.
Yes, and I'm still watching it now that it's on streaming. It was just needed and joyful and beautiful, and everybody was gorgeous, and the lighting was great. The outfits were wonderful, and it was absolutely, like I said, necessary.
Okay.
I loved it.
Great. That was the
Soundtrack was
one.
great.
That was the one that most stood out to you.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of. I don't go to the theaters as much as I used to, and I'm more interested in serials these days. But that was very good. I think.
But we saw Crazy Rich Asians together.
Crazy Rich Asians was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun. I also saw Sorry to Bother You, which.
Oh yes.
Was.
Exactly. You saw that with you also. Yeah, that was great. And did I see Get Out with you, or was Get Out last year?
I think Get Out was last year because it won the Academy Award at the beginning of this year for Best Original Screenplay. I'm looking forward to seeing Us.
Yes.
I've watched that trailer about 10 times.
Okie dokie. So, what was your most recent knitting project, which I saw, which was beautiful? Yes.
My most recent knitting project is called White Horse. It's a sweater by designer Caitlin Hunter, and it was picked by my nephew Diego because he wanted to wind the yarn into yarn cakes.
Diego is her nephew, my grandson, the youngest one. Okay, so he had a lot of fun doing that. And congratulations, because your picture is in a knitting magazine in Denmark.
Yeah, yeah, it is, but it's totally by accident. They were just taking photos of this store where I sometimes help out, a yarn store here in Brooklyn called Brooklyn General Store. And this woman who that writes profiles about stores for Danish magazine took photos, and I happened to be in it.
But yeah, well, I was very happy to see you there. Where do you get most of your patterns?
Ravelry. Ravelry.com.
Okay. Shout out to Ravelry.com. And what projects are you looking forward to doing in 2019?
Oh, I have a queue.
Okay.
I have a whole list of them. I always have socks because I wear socks a lot. So I always have 1 or 2 socks going.
I have socks here right now.
Yeah, they also travel very well.
Yes, they do.
But I have a few projects that are sweaters and blankets. I have started blankets before, but never finished them.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have a commitment problem. But hopefully this year I will finish 1 blanket.
Okay.
And yeah, I have a bunch of sweaters. I have like 10 sweaters that I'm planning on knitting.
Okay.
This year.
So yeah, that's I have a few things that. What are you looking forward to reading in 2019?
There's a lot of books that I have on my holds in the public library. I don't download. I listen to audiobooks that I borrow through the public libraries here, New York Public Library in Brooklyn, Public Library in Queens, Public Library. And I have a bunch of things on hold. They're mostly fiction, but I am particularly waiting for a few books on Haiti and by Haitian authors. I'm on a Haiti kick right now.
That's great.
I feel like I don't know enough about the first Black Republic in the Americas.
Yeah. I read Black Jacobins.
That's one of the books that I'm waiting for.
Yeah. I read Black Jacobins, and I have a book by Paul Farmer that's on my TBR, hopefully for this year. Yeah.
I want to read more about the Caribbean. I've been reading
and
a lot.
And I have Roxane Gay's Haiti.
Yeah. I've been very interested this year in reading a lot more about the Caribbean, reading Caribbean authors. You know, not only Spanish, but like, you know, writers from Puerto Rico, the DR, Cuba, but the Jamaica and the Antilles. I've been very interested in reading about the Caribbean.
Me too. That's what I'm into right now also. That's what I want to do for 2019. I was noticing when I was rummaging through your books that I see some series books, and I was wondering whether you had read them or whether they were from some kind of a mysterious haul or that they were donated to you. I saw some Philip Pullman and some George Martin. Have you read those? Have you liked those?
The Philip Pullman, I'm gonna guess is his Dark Materials series.
They're right up there.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed. So I just got them because I think they belong in anyone's library.
Okay. I
George,
did not know this about you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I started reading them because in my first job in New York at a publishing company, my first publishing company job, the other assistants and I started like a little informal reading club, and we read those. And because we were waiting for the next Harry Potter book, and in the meantime, one of them found The Golden Compass, which I think is the first book, and we just
went on from there.
I think it's far superior. The themes are much more substantial. I mean, I love Joe Rowling. I think Harry Potter books are very imaginative. But yeah, that's that.
And then George Martin was part of that same reading group?
No, George Martin, I started reading much later. And it was because everybody was like obsessed with these books, and they were waiting for the new ones to come out, and they're bestsellers. And I like fantasy. I enjoyed reading fantasy.
Did not know this about you.
Okay. So I started reading it, and I didn't finish them because I had read 3.5 books in the series, which is the series that the Game of Thrones television show is based on. And I realized that these books are not thin. They're 800 plus pages.
I saw
and I realized I had read 3.5 books, and only 2 months worth of time had transpired in the storyline, and I no.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for hooking me up to Verso Books, where I got 15 ebooks for. Where were we? I was thanking you for hooking me up to Verso Books, where I got 15 ebooks for $2 a piece.
Did you score?
That was great. And I was going to ask you, what other publishing houses would you recommend besides Verso Books?
I really like Haymarket Books. They do, Verso does a lot of books that have to do with class, a lot of race, gender issues. And Haymarket is kind of along those lines. Verso is out of the UK. Haymarket is in Chicago. And they publish stuff like The Battle for Paradise by Naomi Klein, which is actually the last book about Puerto Rico that I read. And she's using as a fundraising tool for a lot of grassroots organizations in Puerto Rico that are doing a lot of post-hurricane work.
That is true. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think we're going to stop here. And I just want to thank you for being my reading guru all these years, for real. And I appreciate it. And I love you. Te amo.
Te amo. Congratulations on your YouTube channel.
Gracias. Gracias.